So over the last 10 years, we have slowly seen Amazon take over the world. Jeff Bezos has become the richest person on the planet, and Amazon has slowly but surely become a monster in the world of business. How did it all happen? Why did it happen? More importantly, what does it mean for you to capitalize on what could be the largest opportunity of our modern lifetime? Stay tuned on this video. We get into the story of Amazon, how it all happened, and the 4 ways that you can capitalize on it. Let's go. I've built and led multiple 7-figure Amazon brands. Now, I'm setting out to share how I did it, with radically transparent and detailed weekly videos. Join the journey with me and break free. Welcome to Heist. Hello and welcome to Heist. If this is your first time here, this channel is all things Amazon, specifically all things Amazon FBA. I build and grow and scale 7- and 8-figure Amazon native brands, and this channel dives into how I do that, my thoughts on the space. And in today's video, we are doing a deep dive into all things Amazon. What is it? How did it come about? Most importantly, what are the theses that I have on how you can capitalize on what could literally be the biggest opportunity of our modern lifetime? So to understand the Amazon story, you really need to understand how the retail environment and how shopping behaviors in the United States have been shaped over the last 5 to 10 years. When Amazon started in the late 90s, it was about books. It has snowballed into something that is so much more, and the landscape of retail, the landscape of shopping, where money is made and the opportunities for brands that sell products has dramatically shifted. So let's start with retail. Physical brick and mortar, going out to shop, going out to malls retail, which started the foundation of commerce in the United States. And unfortunately, it's become a retail death spiral. This chart here and this graphic here at the top shows all of the bankruptcies in the retail landscape in the United States just for 2020. At the bottom, there's logos of other bankrupt monster players in the retail space over the last couple of years. Neiman Marcus, J. Crew, Toys R Us, Pier 1 Imports, JCPenney's, Borders, Sears. Monsters of retail that have succumbed to the gravity, that have succumbed to the reality that retail physical brick and mortar is having a difficult time surviving in this new e-commerce landscape. What are the reasons for the retail death spiral? Probably the most important is the concept of the structural mechanics of the retail supply chain and how hard those are to make work in the modern environment. So typical structure, right? You're a retailer, you find products you want to put on your shelves, you buy them, usually on credit terms, but you absolutely absorb and pay for inventory. That is distributed across hundreds of stores that you need to plan throughout the US on where that demand is going to come from. And you want to have the right amount of inventory, the right amount of things that people want to buy at the right moments in time. So you want to meet inventory to customer demand and then actually sell that through, make your money back, go back, buy more inventory. The cycle continues. What's difficult about physical brick and mortar retail is twofold. First, you've got additional costs. Because you have a retail store environment, you've got employees, staff to run those stores, there is a dollar per foot cost just to keep the lights on that you need to cover in a cost structure. To do that, you've got to charge higher prices and take a margin cut from that brand so that you can justify and sustain those levels of revenue. The other problem is that you've got a finite amount of shelf space because you've got a physical environment and you've got a planned demand across regions and you've got to fork over cash to buy inventory and try and anticipate what that demand is going to be. It becomes a balancing act of working capital for brands and retailers to be able to sustain. And frankly, it's breaking. It's become very difficult to meet customer demand with the finite shelf space and how dynamic and changing demands of consumers across regions are occurring. It's become difficult to meet the price needs and value needs of shoppers in a world where you can find stuff that's oftentimes of greater value for less price online. So, the death spiral has begun. In addition to that, you've got changing consumer needs and demands. First of all, how people seek out their purchase decisions is not going to the mall anymore. It's going online, going on Google, going on Amazon, seeking out information, opinions, thoughts, and reviews on products before they make the purchase decision. It's just a lot cleaner, a lot more efficient, a lot more scalable to do this in the digital space for most product categories. Second is convenience. Especially in a world recently of COVID where there's safety concerns, it's just a lot easier from a laptop with quick and efficient shipping to buy and shop online, get things shipped, and returns are easier. It's just you don't have the same hassles of going out in person any longer. And then finally, word of mouth scale. Back in the 80s and 90s, you had your neighbors, your colleagues. That's who you could really find information about products on. Maybe you watch the news, maybe you read an article about it, but there's a finite amount of information that you could gather from other people to inform your purchase decisions. In the digital landscape, there is an infinite amount of influence, ideas, reviews, and thoughts that go into making a product decision. The combination of these things, in addition to the structural elements that are really difficult to sustain retail in the mechanics of costs now for running a retail store, has led to the fall of these major giants. Enter e-commerce. And this is just a shot of the retail e-commerce sales worldwide, and it is literally mind-boggling. Obviously, Asia Pacific, with the population density there, is leading the way, but $749 trillion in North America for e-commerce spending. It's insane. And it's getting worse, and it's expanding, and it's accelerating. If you look just the 8-week period coming out of the COVID crisis within North America specifically, we saw as much e-commerce growth as a percentage of overall shopping as we saw the previous 10 years. Think about that. Growth in 4 months, what we had seen in the previous 10 years. And 27% of all retail transactions now take place through e-commerce and laptop app transactions. This year alone, there has been a 146% increase in e-commerce within the US. So you have a perfect storm. You have costs and structures on the retail physical brick and mortar that are becoming incredibly difficult for most retailers to sustain. You've got changing demands and needs of consumers, and you have an accelerant projected out by COVID that has expanded retail e-commerce shopping dramatically over the last year. And most retailers are not going to survive, and many haven't already. It's easier, cheaper, safer to buy things online with much more choice in a virtually limitless shelf space environment. So the story goes, e-commerce is growing. Tell me something I don't know, right? Let's look at Amazon now. What's incredible about Amazon is they are at the pinnacle and the tip of the spear when it comes to e-commerce transactions in the United States. They now have over half of all online e-commerce shopping in the United States takes place on Amazon.com. You'll see this chart here. It's just absolutely mind-boggling. The market share that they take up over everybody else. eBay's the next closest at 6.6%. Apple's got 4%. Walmart's got 4%. And then a bunch of other big players kind of take the shavings from that. But think about that. Amazon.com accounts for half of all e-commerce shopping in the United States. So not only are you seeing brick and mortar retail crumble and e-commerce expand significantly, Amazon is capturing the vast majority of those e-commerce digital shopping transactions. What's the reason for this? The concept of the digital shelf space is critically important here, and it's something that was theorized by Jeff Bezos back in the late 90s. The thought being, in a digital environment, you don't have a dollar per square foot constraint. You don't have a physical cap on how much goods you can fit into a particular retail store. You don't have a finite amount of options that you can present to consumers. There is literally a theoretical infinite amount of choices, shelf space available if you can capitalize the scaled operations of an e-commerce platform. And that's precisely what Jeff Bezos and Amazon has done. So not only is 27% of shopping currently conducted online now in the United States, more than half of that is captured by Amazon. Enter the infinite shelf space. And it's really the perfect confluence of how choice has been bred within the Amazon.com platform. And there's really 3 different ways that you can transact when you buy something from Amazon.com. The first is 1P. 1P is basically like traditional retail, where Amazon goes out mainly with major brands and buys their product to house in their warehouse and make available to customers. So on a weekly basis, they would cut their weekly PO. These big brands would ship their product into Amazon, and then Amazon would act as the de facto digital retailer to present and sell those choices to their customers on the Amazon.com platform, taking very similar margins to what a traditional brick and mortar retailer would do. The second thing that they've done is create their own internal Amazon brands that aren't named Amazon, but are built by their company and presented to customers. So they've got their own shelf space of their own products. And the biggest and probably most incredible element of their growth in building out the infinite shelf space is the third-party sellers, or 3P, a big part of what this Heist channel is all about. In this model, somebody like you or I, or smaller, less known brands, or even big brands, can create their own offer or shelf option within the Amazon.com platform, make it available to Amazon.com shoppers, and they can transact, buy, and have Amazon fulfill out those goods to end consumers. That is the 3P model. In this model, Amazon's not buying inventory. They're not planning consumer demand. They're not paying for the warehousing. It's the third-party sellers that tap into the Amazon platform and pay Amazon a referral fee in order to access those customers. But what this has done is really, in an unprecedented scale, presented a vast amount of options for consumers within the United States and the Amazon.com platform to purchase goods. This is from the 2018 letter to shareholders here. It just maps out the growth of these third-party sellers within the Amazon.com platform. And you can see here in 1999, it was 3% of transactions on Amazon.com were from third-party sellers. And in 2018, 58%. So more than half of all transactions on Amazon came from third-party sellers that Amazon didn't buy the inventory for, that it wasn't an Amazon brand, and that Amazon wasn't paying or cutting a PO to, like in traditional retail. So 27% of online shopping now is taking place online in the United States. Over half of those transactions are taking place on Amazon.com. 58% of those sales are from third-party sellers that Amazon doesn't even need to buy the inventory on. They just take a cut of all those sales. So $160 billion plus per year at a growth rate of 52% is coming from third-party sellers. And this is the key point. Amazon has figured out a way, without their own working capital, to present infinite options to customers that are high quality, that are priced, value-driven, that they get a cut of every transaction on. And it's half of the transactions in the United States. This is the amazing Amazon story. So how do you take advantage of this? And there's really 4 things that I think are at the forefront of all of this e-commerce happening within Amazon.com. 2 of which you probably haven't heard a whole lot before, but we'll get into one that you probably have, and that's the third-party sellers. So that's what this channel is all about. That's how I've made a lot of my money in e-commerce. That's the fundamental thesis that I believe in, which is creating my own brands, having Amazon data know-how, and selling within the platform and scaling those brands to 7 and 8+ figures. I think the new model can find a spot between the two traditional models within third-party selling on Amazon. Traditionally, you've got on the one side branded premium players that likely reside in other retail stores as well. So they've got to have their pricing and margin structure to sell on, say, bestbuy.com or Walmart, or Best Buy or Walmart. Also need to be able to sell online. But as a result of being in physical retail, their pricing is typically at a premium because they're omni-channel. So they're usually branded premium offers, but they're not really great at Amazon, and they're definitely not designed for Amazon. On the flip side, because of the embedded trust within Amazon, the fact that it's free, no hassle returns, there's a review platform that people trust and dig into significantly, there is non-branded players that might even have, frankly, a crappy brand, but with decent offers and really good Amazon know-how that are designed to sell precisely and succeed on Amazon. Those are the two spectrums. I think the new Amazon 3P is somebody that's in between, that's got a good brand, good aesthetics, good offer, understands Amazon, but isn't cheap and isn't priced out of the market like a traditional non-Amazon centric brand would be. So in this world, you would combine strong brand photography, a really good product and offer that's not constrained by retail margins because it doesn't need to be sold and increase the price for physical retail margins. And it's Amazon native. It knows keywords. It knows how shoppers look on Amazon. It knows how to cultivate reviews, how to cultivate trust, and how to launch and rank organically within the Amazon platform. In this world, a little brand can be better than a big brand. You know, Amazon has embedded trust, as I'd mentioned. The resources and time to get brand trust on Amazon is a lot quicker than building it in a traditional ground up environment like the 90s and 2000s of building up a physical brick and mortar retail brand. Also, without having the big brand margin structure where you've got to give half of your margins and 50% markup on the retail side, you don't have that when you go straight digital. So Amazon native brands and offers can absolutely dominate in this new 3P environment. So photography, product, and data-centric combines to make this new 3P. One that I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about, and it's something that I've done a couple times already, is this concept of factory partnerships. And I'll give an example of one that I've done. So last summer, there was one of the leading SUP boards, so stand-up paddleboard factories in the world wanted to start selling in the US. So I had a relationship with them. They were getting my advice on how to set up company structure. We ended up partnering on this product where they basically funded all of the inventory. They funded shipping all of the product in containers here to sell. And then I stood up the structure within the US to be able to help them transact, sell, and succeed on Amazon. And we did multi-million dollars in the summer months selling SUP boards. Something that I wouldn't have wanted to put up the working capital for, to go grow and expand and pay for all of this inventory that could be a really high risk, especially in a seasonal environment. And then on the flip side, the factory didn't quite know how to commit to coming into the US market. So one of the future methods that I see transacting within the Amazon growth opportunity is factories and manufacturers that don't have US Western know-how and don't know how to succeed on Amazon, aligning with people in the United States that understand the Western consumer, understand how to build a Western brand, and understand how to succeed on Amazon, but don't want to fork over all of the money for inventory. So you combine the worlds of factory operations working capital with brand, Western know-how, and Amazon know-how coming together and having a really awesome, mutually beneficial relationship. So this is a model that I don't hear a lot of people talking about, but I think that it's something that's going to grow significantly when you match the East and the West, bringing those two elements together and fusing to succeed as a third-party seller on the Amazon platform. Another one that I'm very, very passionate about and is going to be a key part of what I'm going to be doing within the Amazon opportunity here in the coming years is acquiring Amazon-centric brands. So currently an Amazon-specific brand where 80% or more of their sales and transactions and revenue occur within Amazon, they go for about a 2.5 to 3.5 times EBITDA multiple. So let's say they do $1 million in revenue a year, and they are earning $300,000 in net income or EBITDA a year. They can expect to sell for about $1 to $1.3 million, depending on a lot of different variables, but that's generally what they're going to go for. And frankly, it's, in my opinion, undervalued. Most brands and businesses in a normal acquisition environment that aren't Amazon-centric are going to command 4 to 5 times EBITDA. For a mature business, and for a fast-growing business, they can garner 2 times plus revenue in terms of their multiple. So there's definitely an environment now where Amazon-centric brands that are growing past 7 figures that get acquired are getting acquired for a multiple that I think is a great deal compared to where things are going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years. So the other problem is that once Amazon sellers, which oftentimes are mom and pop entrepreneurs like ourselves that kind of start things up solo, they might have a handful of employees or VAs, they can scale pretty easily, frankly, to the 7-figure mark. But once they hit that, the risks, the stakes, the challenges, the operational complexities for them to grow and professionalize into the next chapter of getting into $4, $5, $10 million in revenue and beyond becomes tremendously difficult. So there is not only, in my opinion, an undervalued opportunity to acquire Amazon brands, there's also a massive amount of sellers that hit that 7-figure mark that just don't know where to go from there, and they're ripe for wanting to be able to sell their brand, take some risk off the table, capture their exit and their big payday, and then go on to the next adventure in their lives. The last figures had it at 20,000 sellers, 3P sellers on the Amazon platform are at $1 million or more. So there's a massive amount of these brands available on the market, many of which are interested in exiting their business and selling. And there's an opportunity, at least for the time being, to capture those for a pretty good multiple if you're in the business of acquiring Amazon brands. Couple examples to highlight how massive this opportunity is. Thrasio, one of the first major players to get in and professionalize Amazon acquisitions, has become one of the fastest growing $1 billion unicorns in the world of business in the United States. They recently raised $260 million with the goal of going out, identifying, acquiring, and rolling up dozens and dozens of these 7- and 8-figure Amazon brands. Even this past week, Boosted Commerce, who focuses on health and beauty, raised $87 million for this very purpose. So another massive opportunity within the Amazon space, especially for people that are professionals that can have operational expertise to scale and grow medium to large size businesses and deploy capital in an efficient way. There's a massive opportunity in acquiring 3P Amazon brands. The final thing that, again, doesn't get talked about a lot is this concept of channel agencies. There's obviously a lot of service providers within the Amazon ecosystem, pay-per-click probably being one of the biggest ones, but there's an opportunity that a few are capitalizing on, which is really helping omni-channel known brands navigate into and capitalize on the Amazon.com opportunity. Big brands aren't stupid. They realize that physical brick and mortar retail is declining. There's only going to be a handful of major retailers that are going to continue to dominate the marketplace and avoid bankruptcy. There's less doors, there's less physical places for people to shop, and that's going to get worse before it gets better. They also recognize the tremendous growth in e-commerce that's occurring as a result. And the cherry on top, they're not stupid. They understand, even if they don't like it, Amazon is capturing about half of those transactions that occur digitally within the e-commerce space. And they know that for their businesses and their brands and their physical products to survive, They need to be able to flourish and have an element of Amazon.com in their business. But they don't know how to navigate that. So there's a lot of agency opportunities where I see people with Amazon know-how, with digital retail know-how that can chaperone these brands into the Amazon.com ecosystem and make them successful and take a decent cut, whether it be service fee or a percentage of sales, in order to help them do that. So you take branded retail native channel brands, you add an Amazon agency with Amazon know-how, and then there's digital scale opportunities that can happen via 3P. One of the biggest examples I've seen of this is actually somebody in my backyard, an agency called Pattern. Pattern does this very thing, right? They marry up their Amazon know-how, their agency expertise in the Amazon channel space, and they help these bigger brands succeed on Amazon. They buy their inventory, they take a percentage of sales, much like a retailer would, and they take all of their expertise and deliver it on Amazon. What that's meant in 2019, they've been seeing over 1,000% growth rates, and in 2019 saw over $211 million in revenue. So that's the story, guys. It's a pretty incredible one. It's something that I'm dedicating my professional life to because I believe it's that big of an opportunity. The world is never going to be the same. There's a death spiral of physical retail. E-commerce is growing and will continue to grow. And Amazon, at least in the United States, will continue to take a massive majority chunk of those e-commerce transactions. You can capitalize on that by having a new innovative approach to selling as a third-party 3P seller on Amazon, which is identifying the gaps between what big, overpriced brands sell on the platform and poorly executed brands with good value. Meeting somewhere in the middle with a new approach is one way that you can do that. The second way that you can do that is identifying factory partnerships, where you take a lot of the risk off the table. You work with overseas, primarily manufacturers, create and stand up a US-based business structure and brand and content structure, take their inventory and working capital, marry the two, and succeed on Amazon. The third way, which is going to be a core part of how I want to grow my personal and business endeavors over the next couple of years, is the acquisition of 7+ figure Amazon brands. Collapsing those together, having an operating model that supports all of those brands, where you basically add like a portfolio and grow and scale based on acquisition. And finally, taking Amazon know-how and consultancies and marrying that up in an agency relationship where you help chaperone brands that are traditionally brick and mortar retail focused and giving them a foray into capitalizing on the digital growth and Amazon growth that is occurring. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you got other ideas and thoughts on how Amazon came to be what it is today, and more importantly, where it's going, please chime in on the comments. I would love to get some dialogue going on this to see what you guys think. And if you add value out of this and are here for the first time, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. We do this every single week, deep diving into things that are important to Amazon sellers and that are important to the future of e-commerce. Hope you guys liked it. Have a good one. Cheers.